In a world where the rules are changing faster than ever before, the most obsolete idea that still controls millions of lives is the belief that success comes through a simple formula. Go to school, get good grades, find a job, work hard, save money, stay out of debt, buy a house, and invest for the long term. But what if everything you were taught about money, security, and the path to wealth is not only outdated, but dangerously misleading? What if the very beliefs you were raised with are the reason you are stuck, stressed, and unable to break out of the cycle that keeps 99% of people struggling? Today, I want you to step back from what you've always been told and look at the bigger picture, the real picture. Because the truth is simple. When they are printing trillions of dollars, when currencies lose value every day, and when the gap between the rich and the poor widens like an open canyon, saving money no longer saves you. The ideas that worked 50 years ago can destroy your financial future today. But most people never question the script they've inherited. They follow it blindly, just like their parents and grandparents, believing obedience will lead them to security. Yet security is an illusion, and this illusion is the prison. Inside every human being, including you, there are actually three people. There is a poor person, shaped by fear and scarcity. There is a middle-class person, shaped by the desire for security, predictability, and a steady paycheck. And there is a rich person, shaped by vision, courage, and a completely different understanding of money and opportunity. The tragedy is that our educational system only trains the poor and middle-class characters inside us. It never teaches us how to awaken, nurture, and strengthen the rich person within. From childhood, we are taught to depend on a paycheck, to chase job security, to fear uncertainty, and to worship stability, even if it means sacrificing our dreams, creativity, and potential. You are told to seek comfort, not freedom. You are taught to be controlled, not empowered. And that mindset becomes the invisible wall that traps you for the rest of your life. If you've read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you know that my rich dad refused to pay me because he understood a truth that my poor dad never could. The paycheck is dangerously addictive. The moment you depend on it, you surrender your power and mindset to the system. You become an employee not just in your job, but in your thinking. You begin to believe that money comes through hard work, that authority decides your value, that you must trade time for income. My rich dad didn't want me to grow up thinking like that. He didn't want money to become my master. He wanted me to understand that true wealth comes from the ability to create, not obey, to take risks, not hide, to think, not wait, to build something that pays you even when you sleep, instead of working for something that drains your life away. That mindset difference is everything. Being an entrepreneur is not about owning a business. It is about owning your mindset. It is about learning the skill sets, rules, and internal strength required to operate in a world where nothing is guaranteed except the opportunity to create. Big businesses do not play by the same rules as small businesses, and small businesses do not operate by the same rules as employees. Each group has its own mindset, its own limitations, its own reality. If you are thinking like an employee, you will act like an employee. If you are thinking like a small business owner, you will limit yourself like a small business owner. But if you start thinking like an entrepreneur, even before you become one, you will step into a world where your potential is no longer capped. If someone asked me, what is the one thing you would tell a person who has never been an entrepreneur but is thinking about taking the leap, I would tell them the same story that shaped me forever. I still remember the day I received my last check at Xerox. It wasn't even a paycheck. It was a bonus, $30,000. I held that check in my hand, feeling two powerful emotions at the same time: excitement and fear. Because I knew once I cashed that check, I was stepping into a world where there were no guarantees, no safety nets, no steady income. A colleague looked at me and said, "You'll be back. You're going to fail." I failed and I had to come back. You will too. But I looked at him and said, "You failed and came back, but I will fail and never come back." That was the day I became an entrepreneur. Not when I succeeded, but when I accepted the possibility of failure and still moved forward without a plan B. If you say, "If I fail, I can always go back to my job," then you will. If you say, "If I fail, my parents will help me," then you will lean on them. But if you say, "If I fail, I will learn, I will adjust, I will stand back up, and I will keep going," then you will build a resilience that no paycheck can ever give you. Entrepreneurship is not measured by how much money you have. It is measured by how much courage you can build. The struggle is the training ground. When you have no paycheck, no backup plan, no guaranteed income, you develop hunger. You become smarter. You develop character. You learn who you truly are. Do you become dishonest? Do you cheat? Or do you become stronger and more capable? Entrepreneurship reveals the person behind the mask. Most people look only at the immediate moment. What will happen to me? What if I fail? What if I lose my job? But real entrepreneurs look at the bigger picture. They understand that when something bad happens, something good is hiding behind it. You just have to be prepared. If you think the next 20 years will be like the last 20 years, you will be crushed. The world changed dramatically in 1971 when President Nixon took us off the gold standard. Money stopped being money and became debt. Since then, everything you were taught about saving, earning, and investing became obsolete. Most people check the expiration date on a carton of milk, but never check the expiration date on their beliefs. They keep using ideas that expired decades ago. When you understand how the system works, you realize that debt is not the enemy, ignorance is. Poor people try to get out of debt. Rich people learn how to get into debt the right way. When interest rates dropped, I refinanced hundreds of millions in debt, lowering my payments and making a fortune because my cost of money went down. Most financial experts tell you to avoid debt because they don't understand how the wealthy use it. My rich dad told me, "Go learn real estate," not because of real estate, but because of debt and taxes. Debt and taxes are the tools that make the rich richer and the poor poorer. Doctors, lawyers, high-income professionals, they make more money but take home less because taxes eat their income. A doctor who earns $1 million might pay $750,000 in taxes. But when I make $1 million, I keep it. Because the rich do not work for money. They build assets that pay them. When I earn as an entrepreneur, I immediately invest it in real estate. If I put $1 million in, the bank gives me $4 million. Debt multiplies my wealth. Taxes reward me because I create jobs and housing. Meanwhile, the people who save money get punished. Inflation destroys their savings, taxes eat their earnings, and they never understand why the gap keeps widening because nobody teaches them the rules of the rich. People ask, if school doesn't work, should we get rid of it? No. Education is more important than ever, but the content is obsolete. Information now doubles every 18 months. By the time a student graduates, their knowledge is outdated. They are prepared for a world that no longer exists. The old formula collapses in a world where money is printed endlessly, where banks pay negative interest, where savings lose value, and where inflation eats your future. People want a high-paying job, but that idea is obsolete. People think getting out of debt is the goal, but that idea is obsolete. People think their house is an asset, but if it takes money out of your pocket every month, it is a liability. The financial system rewards those who understand debt, taxes, entrepreneurship, and asset building. The rest work harder and harder for less and less. There are 28 million small business owners in America, and 24 million of them are solo operators. They are self-employed, not entrepreneurs. They pay the highest taxes of all. They work the hardest, but receive the smallest rewards. Nobody teaches them the truth because the system depends on them staying